Hello and welcome to my PowerPoint presentation. This will be going over the PowerPoints that have been handed in. We chose Optus for our group project. It is a telecommunication company. Telecommunication companies provide a range of communication services such as internet, data transmission, and more to connect people over distances. Optus has certain infrastructure, these being fiber optics, cables, satellites, which allow them to operate. Let's go to the next slide. We see lots of images. We see some satellites. We see some network and fiber optic cables. Next slide, we think about the scalability, right? Optus has 7,000 employees, over 11 million clients. What is the resources that they would have to use to operate at such a large scale, right? What are the costs to operate at such a scale? What is the credibility? Sometimes bigger companies are seen as more trustworthy, but because they're bigger, there are more ways that hackers can attack, right? Next slide, data risks. When you are a client of Optus, you have to give certain information, your name, your credit card details, phone numbers, and more data that you are giving times by the 11 million clients that they have are more data vectors that people can exploit. High risk, yep, scalability issues. So let's go to the next slide. We see some images. If it is on the internet, it is in private. This is the first image. So a common idea is that if it's on the internet, maybe it's more private, but we must always remember that every information that you provide on the internet is always going to be at risk to a certain degree. We must remember this. Next image, we see trust, an image of trust. How much do we trust these big companies? We think that bigger companies are more reliable, but sometimes they're not. Sometimes because they're bigger, they are more prone to attacks, but we think that, okay, there's lots of people using it, therefore it's more reliable. This is not always the case. So what are the responsibilities of data gathering companies? What must they provide? How credible must they be and what are the consequences, legal consequences for data loss that you have provided? Next slide. What is the history of Optus? They were actually a victim to data theft, which left 9.5 million clients' private information lost back in 2022. Next slide, we see a bunch of people, an image of a lot of people. Can you imagine what 9.5 million people, how many people that is? Quite a lot of people that have lost their data. Next slide, we see social engineering attacks. Sometimes the company itself isn't at onus of the attack. Sometimes it's the clients themselves. A common weakness in telecommunication companies is social engineering attacks. An example is identity theft, where somebody may impersonate one of the employees perhaps, and they send you a message or an email claiming to be them, and you might trust them and give your information. They might appeal to authority since that they are an employee. They have some certain authority, and you feel more relaxed to give your information. They can use certain strategies like being very trustworthy in their message, using humor devices so that you lower your guard. They can also use time stress. If you don't renew your contract right now, you're going to lose your contract with Optus. You might lose your monthly subscription, so on and so forth. They can also use phishing attacks. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. We see three images. The first image is a impersonator with cards, perhaps that he stole or that he found, and he's impersonating the person on those cards, like student cards and such. The next is a message, an email, which is a fake email impersonating. And we have the last one, which is a phishing attack. Next slide, phishing attacks. What is a phishing attack? Phishing attack is a trustworthy appearance in order to gain sensitive information. They may use fake websites and messages that resemble a trusted origin. And lastly, what are some solutions that Optus has used? Well, to the problems, they have used a website with scam prevention education, as well as cyber awareness, as well as providing a cyber awareness page for their clients. They also hired a team of ethical hackers that are trained to find potential weaknesses in the database, making for information theft harder. Employees must follow the strict protocols that are governed by this team. And lastly, Optus uses actual monitoring software, which aids the monitoring team, allowing for a more reliable monitoring service. Thank you very much. This is my presentation.